Has Rebirth just
The
died?
focus on Verdansk is killing Rebirth
Is it
Island,
done?
and Season 3 Reloaded might be the final nail in the coffin. We're not getting any updates to the map, and the time to kill is still going to be really fast. And I keep seeing comments from people online saying that they've quit playing Rebirth Island and Resurgence. Now I see a lot of people complaining about the fast time to kill, but I think the problems go much deeper than that, and it's something I've been thinking about for a really long time. Now to understand the really big problem with Resurgence, we have to go back to when it first came out. So for those of you who forget, when Warzone first launched in early 2020, Resurgence didn't exist. Battle Royale was the only game mode, and it was
That's
brutally
true.
hard. The time
That's
to kill
very
was
true.
fast, there were a million places to camp, and most importantly, the matches were slow. Much of your time spent in the game was looting and sitting around with the boys, trying to figure out your next rotation to make it into safety. And if you played Verdansk this season, it's basically the same as what it was in 2020. Now there's nothing wrong with this slower playstyle, but it was significantly different from the fast-paced chaos of Call of Duty multiplayer that most players were used to up until Warzone came out. So seeing this, some developer or group of developers had the genius idea to create a hybrid game mode that would take the best parts of Battle Royale and the best parts of multiplayer and combine them into something new. And that was Resurgence, a much more casual game mode where players could get into a lot of gunfights, and if they died, they could respawn as long as someone on their team was still alive. And there was still an element of Battle Royale because once the respawn timer was up, the last team standing won. The key thing to remember here is that Resurgence was designed to be a much faster and more casual mode than the brutal experience of Battle Royale. But over the years, something has changed with this mode, and a lot of players online are saying that it's gotten way too slow due to campers.
I think the other thing is that campers are one, but when you got the TTK involved, there's really no. It's like it's lost its fluidity.
So what happens? We have to realize that there's one main design choice that makes Warzone different from every battle royale. You see, in most BRs, a core component of the game design loop is the risk versus reward of getting into gunfights. In traditional BRs, the more gunfights you win, the better guns and equipment you'll get because you're able to loot other players' inventory. But this can be extremely risky because you might not win your gunfights or you might get third-partied by a team nearby. So there's really two main strategies in traditional battle royale. You can aggressively push other teams and try to rack up kills and get better loot, or you can play it safe. You can pick a spot near the center of zone, loot the nearby areas, and then you can camp until you're forced to move by the closing ring. Both playstyles have their pros and cons, but each one of them is a viable
I don't like people who camp though. Campers are the worst, especially on Water Tower and Lighthouse.
way to get a win. Now, if
I'm
we
not
look
trying
at
to complain,
Warzone, this
but
game plays much differently due to the loadout system. If you think about it, once a team gets their loadout, there's really no incentive to fight other teams or loot the surrounding areas because they already have the best guns in the game. This means that camping, by design, is the safest and most effective playstyle if you're trying to win, because you don't have to take the risk of fighting other teams, and you aren't at a disadvantage because you already have the best guns in the game. Now, I'm certainly not advocating for Warzone to remove loadouts because loadouts are what make this game unique, and it's a lot of fun to be
That's
able to
what makes it
customize
the
and tailor
game,
your specific guns to whatever playstyle you want to do. I think that Warzone needs to have loadouts because it's part of the core identity of the game. But I just want to call this out because it's important to know that the loadout system significantly benefits players who want to play slow. Now, if we think about this, this works well for Battle Royale, where players want a more tactical experience, but it's caused a slow death to Resurgence. If you remember, the players who originally started playing Resurgence wanted a faster and more casual game mode that still had a little bit of the Battle Royale experience. But over time, players have adopted the meta strategy of camping because it works. Having the ability to respawn doesn't give players enough of an incentive to actually want to move around the map. Like I mentioned,
I think camping only works for so long, but also the lobbies die very quick in certain aspects, like quads. It stays alive for the most part. Trios is okay. Duos dies very quickly. And solos is almost 50-50. It dies quickly certain games, and certain games it stays up for a good time. So
earlier, the only
just
incentive to
depends on the
really
game
move
mode
at all is if you want to get more kills.
or playlist.
Not every player is playing for that objective.
That makes sense.
Now, I'm sure a lot of you will argue that the objective of the game mode is still to win, and you're absolutely right. But if we think about this logically, when enough teams decide to just camp and sit in buildings and not move all game,
It's not
Resurgence
fun.
eventually becomes basically Battle Royale, but with a shorter time limit. Now, this is nothing new, and camping being the absolute meta in Battle Royale and in Resurgence has pretty much existed since Warzone came out, but the recent changes in Season 3 to lower the time to kill and slow down the movement has significantly benefited that slower and more campy playstyle. With how the game is designed right now, when two people get into a gunfight, fight, the person who sees the other one first pretty much always wins as long as they can shoot their gun relatively straight. And it also makes it nearly impossible to survive if you get third-partied in a gunfight because Rebirth Island is tiny. Just to put it into perspective, Verdansk is roughly 9 square kilometers with 150 players, which gives you a player density of around 17 players per square kilometer. And Rebirth Island, at least according to ChatGPT, is 0.3 square kilometers with 40 players, which gives you a player density of around 133 players per square kilometer. The player density on Rebirth Island is just so high that you're almost guaranteed to get shot in the back and third-partied if you go to push a team, which once again, this makes players just not want to go push fights because it's very likely you're going to get shot in the back and not be able to react.
He said the player density per square is higher than Verdansk. How is that possible?
Because the time to kill is so fast. Now, originally,
That's
I
crazy
wanted
to
to make
think
this
about.
entire video about the fast time to kill and how it's hurting the gameplay experience on Rebirth Island and small map Resurgence, but when I thought more about it, yes, the current low time to kill is brutal, and especially the slow movement as well because you can't finesse your way out of bad situations. These definitely make the game feel a lot slower, but the real problem is that players have no incentive to move at all. If you want the absolute meta strategy to do well on Rebirth Island, it's the same as Battle Royale. You get your loadout and you camp all game with your teammates in zone. Now, I've been playing Rebirth Island for 4 years now, and I can tell you as a matter of fact that even when we've had the longer time to kill, you still get a lot of players who play really slow and campy because it's just what works best in Warzone. But the more teams that camp and play slow, the more Resurgence starts to feel like Battle Royale. And I don't think that's anything that people want. I believe that
It's crazy because I'm watching his gameplay and I'm listening to what he says, but that was an insane peek off of the guy that's shooting down below, honestly. The other thing is that everyone camps a loadout. So as soon as the loadout drops, and those who already have their loadout, they camp everyone else's loadouts, right? Like right here, this guy is farming. This guy and his teammate that's coming in. But those who camp it never move away. Like, they never move their sight off of this loadout. They would keep looking at this the entire game if they could, until they know no one's coming back. That's camping. Strategically, if you're farming, you're like there, but you're moving around, and then when they come back again, you focus them.
Had the longer time to kill, you still get a lot of players who play really slow and campy because it's just what works best in Warzone. But the more teams that camp and play slow, the more Resurgence starts to feel like Battle Royale. And I don't think that's anything that people want. I believe that Resurgence and Battle Royale should have a completely different identity, and the game should feel very, very different. So if Battle Royale is going to be the slower and more tactical game mode, Resurgence needs to be faster and reward more aggressive playstyles. And I'm not saying that camping shouldn't work in Resurgence, I just don't think that it should be the meta playstyle. And what's frustrating with the current direction of Warzone is it seems like the developers can only focus on one of these game modes at a time. For a long time, a lot of people would argue, and I think that they'd be right, is that the developers focused way too much on Resurgence and on Rebirth Island and pretty much ignored the big map. Like, Urzikstan didn't get almost any updates for like a year, and that left a lot of the big map players feeling like pretty left out. And what I worry is they're going to do the same thing with Resurgence. They're basically just going to focus on Battle Royale and Verdansk because it's brought back all these players, and they're just going to let small map Resurgence just sit and collect dust and not update it and just wait.
Do they find it difficult to work on both maps at the same time? Like, is it hard for them to split their development team into two and go, you guys are going to work on Verdansk, you guys are going to work on Rebirth, if you need help, ask each other kind of thing? Is that too difficult for them?
Wait for enough players to leave before they realize that they have to do something. Now, I have two changes that they definitely need to make very quickly for the player base that I think most people will agree with. And then I have 3 suggested changes that I think would reward more aggressive playstyles, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. So the first obvious change that I hope everyone agrees with is they need to revert the time to kill back to what it was in Season 2. Now, I think you can make the argument that the faster time to kill is fine in 1v1 gunfights, but where I think this argument falls apart for Resurgence is third parties. And like I talked about earlier, the player density on these smaller maps is just way too high to have a time to kill so fast, and you just need to be able to react to getting shot in the back, and right now it's just so fast that in most situations you're pretty much dead if someone shoots you from an unexpected location. Now, the next change that I hope once again everyone agrees with is that we need more content. I think that everyone was kind of bummed about Area 99 and how poorly that map was received, and I feel bad for the developers developers because I'm sure they spent a lot of time on it, but the
That
flow
map
of
was
that
decent.
map just never seemed to really work, and it just never felt like a great experience.
If that map got like a Christmas update, a little bit better Christmas update, like Rebirth, Fortune's Keep has in the past, Verdansk, like the Christmas update would have been really good with uh with Area 99.
Playing on Area
Underrated.
99. And what I still just can't wrap my head around is why we haven't seen Vondel or Ashika Island come back. Now, I'm pretty
Fortunes?
sure that Rebirth Island is the most popular Resurgence map by far, but I still think that both of those maps were pretty well liked by the majority of the player base, especially Vondel, because that map was quite a bit bigger and there were a lot more teams. So every match felt completely different because
Which
the map
Rebirth
was
map
big
is
enough
your
where you
favorite?
could drop in one spot one game, drop in a different spot the other game, and you had pretty much
If I could rank Rebirth maps from the ones we've had to now, or just all of them, I should say, just all of them, I'd probably say I enjoy Fortunes, even if other people don't. I actually do enjoy Fortunes. I'd put Vondel up there, Rebirth Island, and then Ashika, and then Area 99. Just because Area 99, it just played weird to me. I enjoyed the map, but the play style of it was just weird. Ashika, I think it was because it was during the Warzone 2 era, so I'm kind of, yeah, that's about it. What I say, Vondel? Oh no, Rebirth Island. Rebirth Island has been around for a long time, so the switch up was needed. That's what's in the middle. You got Fortune's Keep. Sorry, no, now it's Vondel. Vondel was second. Vondel was really nice, 72 people in solos, and then you had just close to the same with every other squad type, whether it's squads, trios, or duos. So that was good. The flow of it was nice. Water sucked, and then Fortunes is very, very, very much one of my top tier. If they had a Fortunes playlist, I would be on that thing 24/7, most
a
likely.
completely different experience on the map. And then for Ashika
I
Island,
enjoy
one thing that
Fortunes.
I've seen on social media is a lot of people have made some different renderings with the lighting on that map, and they changed it from like the more typical moody setting that we have where it was like very green and just very overcast, and they made it bright like how it is on Rebirth Island. And I really wonder if the developers did that, how that map would be received, because I think a lot of people did love that map. But I really think if they added better lighting to it, it would be a lot more fun to play and a lot
Just
more
a little bit
enjoyable.
more lighting.
And I think a lot of
Not too
players would
much.
give that map a second chance with new lighting. And even if we don't get those two maps, because I'm not a developer or anything, and maybe there's some sort of issue with porting those maps over to the different engines and the different games, like who knows, whatever. Either way, I do think that there's a lot of different POI changes they could make to Rebirth Island to at least keep it fresh. And I at least hope that they're expediting some of these changes because we've been basically playing the same map for so long that it's just getting really, really stale. Okay, so moving on to my three maybe somewhat controversial changes that I think would benefit more aggressive playstyles. And the first suggestion is that once you hit a certain kill threshold, like maybe 10 kills or so, you just automatically get specialists and then you have it for the rest of the game, even if you get killed. This wouldn't be a crazy change because specialists already exist in the game, but it would just be a reward or a benefit for reaching 10 kills, and it would incentivize people to play a little bit more aggressively. And the next
Maybe.
suggestion I think is going to be a controversial one, but it's to have
Wait, so with that, would they give it to you as soon as you get 10 kills? So on the 10th kill, would they automatically give you, like, replace your perks with specialist? Is that how that would work?
reflective friendly fire. And what this means is that if you accidentally shoot one of your teammates or throw a grenade that damages one of them, that damage is actually reflected back to you.
That's
There's
good.
a lot of times in
Yeah.
Warzone where you go to push a team as the aggressive player, and you'll just see basically 3 or 4 players standing on top of one another, just blindly shooting at you, and they're basically just shooting through their teammates and damaging you. And the whole goal would be is that players that are playing this close together, they'll have to be a little bit aware of where their teammates are, and they can't just shoot directly through them. And I think that this is a much
think
better
that's
solution
good.
than just
Yeah, that
having
would be
normal
good.
friendly fire, because with the amount of trolls in this game, I think that that would just be a disaster because you'd have random people or your friends just killing you for the fun of it, which wouldn't be a good thing, although it could make for a lot of funny clips. And the third suggestion that I have is a bit of a weird one. It actually comes from a different Battle Royale game called Apex Legends. And in that game, when you kill somebody and loot their death box, you can actually grab their armor and then you're instantly back to full armor plates. I think it'd be
that would be
interesting to
nice.
have that kind of thing in Warzone because it would allow you to outplay teams if you're able to loot fast enough because you'd be able to down and then finish one person, potentially.
But I think that would get rid of what Call of Duty has implemented with plating up, right? Because you're supposed to be plating up. If it automatically full heals you when you get plates, I think it gets rid of the aspect that Call of Duty implemented on their own, which was putting a plate in, putting a plate in, putting a plate in. While Apex said, okay, if you loot someone, you're already healed. I think that would... So it... kind of 50-50 on that one.
Grab his armor and then be able to get back into a gunfight much more quickly. And I don't think that this would be overpowered because you would actually have to finish the enemy to be able to get his armor. So any teams that are playing well together and communicating should be able to kill you before you're able to finish one of their teammates. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
If you could add one thing to Call of Duty, what would it be? Like whether it's a perk, a like attachment, gun, like just something, anything, like just one thing. Because right now COD's becoming Fortnite in a sense. But if there's one thing you could add to Call of Duty at this moment, aside from everything we already know, what would it be? If you made it this far, let me know in the comments.